Very pleasant. Good evening to you. We'd like to call our regular meeting for Tuesday, June the 18th to order. I'm going to ask you to stand for prayer, and afterwards we'll be led by the Pledge of Allegiance by Venture Crew number 731. Let us pray. Our Father, what a pleasure it is to greet you, to know you, how powerful you are, how wonderful you are, how much you take care of us in good times and bad. In times of sorrow, you're there to comfort us. Father, we're thankful for this group of men, thankful for this audience here tonight, Father, as we discuss the coming year budget. Father, you pray that you give us the wisdom, you give us the strength, and you give us the courage to do the right things, not only by us and by employees, but also by our taxpayers. Now, Father, give us a good evening, a good night, for we ask in thy holy name. Amen.
Amen.
Allegiance to the flag of the United States of America and to the republic for which it stands, one nation, under God, indivisible, with liberty and justice for all.
Get a picture of me. I think this will be the first time.
We can't see y'all.
One more. Okay, thank you.
And before we get started in our regular session, I'd like to encourage us all to take a few minutes of silence in honor and in respect of Governor Olshauser. Will you join me, please? And all God's children said, Amen. Thank you. Next on the agenda is approval of minute meetings. And I understand if there's no corrections, no editing, no omissions, we could probably vote for all 5 of those at one time.
And everybody was present at each one of those, Mr. Chairman?
Okay. All those in favor, raise your right hand. Opposed, like sign. Madam Clerk, 5-0. Thank you. Next on the agenda is approval of the agenda. Chair will entertain a motion.
So move.
All those in favor, raise your right hand. Opposed, like sign. 5-0, Madam Clerk. Item number 4, Madam Clerk, we do not have anybody scheduled for presentation. Is that correct? Item number 6 is a public hearing, and it's for the county budget, and we'll recognize our county, Brian Steen.
Back on May 21st, I sent you a budget message with a recommended budget. In that, during the budget development and background, during March of 2013, a preliminary budget workshop was conducted to receive budget requests from department heads and other entities. Those requests totaled $82,040,674. In development of the FY 2013-14 budget, I reviewed estimated revenues for the upcoming years affected by a countywide reevaluation, incorporated results as I understood them from the Commissioner's Priority Survey, projected county operational and capital needs, and examined the use of funds in the current year by county departments and entities that we fund. The budget theme for FY 2013-14 is the effective employment of available funds to provide required services as well as some limited service enhancements to our citizens through the operations and needed capital improvements to our county governmental infrastructure and technology. The recommended county expenditures are intended to provide direct benefits to our citizens through the provision of services as well as a continual updating of critical technology components and software and completion of capital improvements that have been needed for many years. Objectives of the recommended budget are to build on recent progress in economic development activities, to increase employment opportunities for our citizens and expand our tax base, provide funding for county government technology, software, and infrastructure needs, provide adequate funding for public schools, community college, and mental health, provide citizens with improved service levels for emergency services and services that provide a safety net to our vulnerable citizens, provide a cost of living increase to county employees, continue the performance-based pay process that currently interfaces with our annual performance evaluations, provide additional employee training to improve service delivery to our citizens, and continue to review service delivery methods to identify opportunities to reduce expenditures and improve efficiencies and effectiveness. You have information about the revaluation, but I want to get to the point here about expenditures. Although that information has changed some from the time that I actually wrote the budget message, there I show you information about projects and the cost of those projects. Are you able to go back? There you go, right there. We talked about a tax rate and the tax neutral rate, but the tax neutral rate is not really representative of reality. For the past maybe 5 or so years, you've been using fund balance to balance your budget. So when you try to do a calculation for what's tax neutral, it was not really accurate. You needed to add another 5 cents to eliminate the use of approximately $3 million of fund balance. We added in 3.2 cents for debt service for the new jail, funds set aside for additional EMS station here on the west side of Morganton, and East Burke Senior Center Library. Now, that has been reduced some because we've taken out about $1 million of debt service for building a new jail, and we've also reduced the funding for the set aside for the East Burke Senior Center from $650,000 to $450,000. You have about 2.1 cents on the tax rate for additional costs related to the consolidation of the 911 services. Gentlemen, you may remember that about 2011, we applied for and received a grant from the State 911 Board of $7,280,630 for the construction of a consolidated 911 facility. The state is trying to get away from multiple PSAPs, and this is a way, without costing county tax dollars, to build a facility to incorporate these PSAPs into one consolidated facility. So there's cost, but the cost that we bear are the cost of putting the people inside and operating that building. We've added 1.35 cents for the conference center exchange space to upfit that space so that we can use that as breakout rooms, so we can appeal to a broader clientele that would come to use our conference center, hopefully stay in our hotels and go to our restaurants. This goes towards economic development and is good for our citizens and maybe produces more jobs for our citizens. We're also looking at relocating the district attorney's office and the probation offices in the courthouse so that we reduce the number of people coming in and out of the courthouse other than those needing to see the district attorney, the clerk of court, or actually go to the courtroom. This will help us down the road improve our courthouse security. We're also needing a courthouse generator and a roof for the Burke Services building. About 9/10 of a penny on the tax rate for employee pay increase. 0.56 cent for sheriff's capital expense for vehicles, mobile field reporting, MDTs, and the Viper radios. We're looking at 4/10 of a penny increase for the Western Piedmont Community College funding for capital projects above the current fiscal FY 2012-13 level. You're looking at 2/10 of a penny for IT capital expenses above fiscal year 12-13. Again, this is for technology. You're looking at 0.2% or of a cent for BDI appropriation above the FY 2012-13 for full debt service payment and also for the study that they've been asking for. You're looking at 0.18 cent increase so that we can provide a convalescent ambulance and staff. Now, if you remember, we got a letter from the hospital saying there's a problem. They can't get patients taken back to their service areas for once they completed their hospital stay. This is causing problems for the hospital to the point that they're talking about establishing their own ambulance service and bringing somebody in from outside, which means no new jobs for people here and a loss of that revenue. So, we're trying to help our partners at the hospital and also keep that money in the county and provide jobs for our Burke County people. You're looking at 0.17 cents on the tax rate for funding above FY 2012-13 for a third ambulance remount to complete replacement of all frontline ambulances in a 3-year time frame. It's bad when the ambulance that's sent somewhere breaks down and you have to dispatch another one. Our ambulance fleet needs to be updated and put on a 3-year replacement schedule. This will help us to get to where we need to be. And finally, you have 0.12 cents funding above FY 2012-13 for the Burke Catawba inmate food and medical expenses. We have no idea how many people are going to be put in our jail, how long we're going to have to keep them, how many of them are going to have medical problems, and how many of those are going to have serious medical problems that we have to pay for. There's not any ifs, ands, or buts about that. So this is what is leading us to the higher tax rate. Let's go on to your next slide. What I have before you, and you should have a copy of this, is the proposed budget that we have after our budget workshops by expenditures is listed there. And you'll see the ones in red with the brackets around them are actually a decrease from what is in the current budget year. And we'll go over some of the increases after we show you these pages. But there are a lot of these funds, expenditures that have actually decreased from what their current year is in the FY 2013-14 budget. So over the FY 2012-13 budget, you're actually looking at an increase of approximately $4.1 million. Again, we'll go over some of the what is causing the increases. You've got aids and donation, $15,000 increase for operational funding of the Burke County Rescue Squad. Building inspections, $34,000 funding for replacing a vehicle. $18,740 funding for laptops and the Wi-Fi equipment so staff can fully utilize new software and stay in the field instead of coming back to the offices. This is an inefficiency that we're currently operating under, and I believe this will better serve our community and people who are needing the building inspection services. To help with this, we're establishing a new 3% technology fee to fund these future technology costs. Burke County Schools, $2,828,400 increase in the current expense funding. But we, I think, need to clarify that this includes the school nurses. It also includes numbers that we've never incorporated before, leasing the building to them, and the utilities that it cost us to provide the lights and the water for them. And by doing this, we're actually going to be able to qualify for a greater amount of low wealth funding. These are things you've been providing for years and years, and it's never been captured. And by working with our colleagues at the school system, we're able to capture this to the benefit of the county and the school system and the students needing the low wealth funding. Communications, $960,920 increase in funding that represents the established full-year cost for the new consolidated center. All these folks are going to become county employees instead of being employees of the Burke County Sheriff's Office, the Morganton Public Safety Department, and Valdez, Valdez Police Fire. And we're also having to meet the state guidelines for the operation of the consolidated PSAP, where those people have to have certain certifications in order to do particular jobs that go on in that building. Next, you have debt service, $89,705 for first-year debt payment for the Viper equipment, and this is the Viper radio system that our Sheriff's Department uses. DSS, $39,370 funding for the IMC2 position. Net cost to us, because we don't pay the full share of DSS employees, net cost is $19,685. $52,144 funding of a paralegal position, but the net cost to the county is actually $22,526. $42,584 funding of a fraud investigator position, with the understanding that that fraud investigator ought to be able to generate enough revenue through fraud investigations that it actually costs the county nothing. Does not fund a request for a second IMC2 position. Does not fund a requested third IMC2 position. Does not fund a requested processing assistant 4 position costing $37,056 with a net cost of $18,528 to the county. $151,729 funding for computer equipment and software to help with NC Fast. You don't have a choice. We're having to go to NC Fast as a state mandate. $14,500 funding for replacing a vehicle. $13,621 increase in county funding for all DSS programs. Economic development, $40,000 additional for funding to BDI for development of a 5-year economic development strategy. $62,196 additional funding for BDI for full payment of the industrial park debt service. We'd used some other monies in the past to do that, but that money is gone and we're having to make the full debt service payment. Elections does not fund requested election specialist position costing $35,385. We are putting money in there to do some training should one of their employees leave while that person is still there, so that money would be there to meet that need, so to speak. $43,700 funding for equipment maintenance previously paid by the state. EMS, $40,894 funding of a paramedic position. $36,482 funding of an EMT intermediate position for the convalescent crew. $31,577 funding of an EMT basic position for the convalescent crew. $270,000 funding for remounting 3 ambulances. $28,000 increase in funding for protective clothing so that our employees have the protective clothing that they need in order to do their job. $230,000 funding of vehicle cost previously reflected in the garage budget, so that will be deducted from the garage budget. The Fire Marshal's Office, $6,500 funding for part-time fire inspector position. $44,200 funding for replacing a vehicle. The garage, $24,000 funding for cleaning, repair, replacement of gas pumps. The governing board, $13,000 funding for updating, codifying of county ordinances. Health Department, $70,045 decrease in county funding of all health department programs. Human Resources does not fund requested assistant HR director position at a cost of $61,430. Information Technology does not fund requested IT technician position at a cost of $46,835. Does not fund a second requested IT position at a cost of $46,835. $115,000 funding for final phase of new phone system replacement. $94,560 funding for county website redesign and establishing intranet. This will go a long ways in helping us do some internal training and also some efficiencies with things that we need to do for providing services. $40,000 funding for data backup storage. Information Technology continued. $31,515 funding for firewall replacement. $46,480 funding for other capital cost. $24,390 funding for increased cost of internet access for Health Department and DSS, and some of that is the NC Fast and the additional bandwidth that that's going to take up in order for us to be able to serve the DSS clients. For the library, $40,000 funding for building improvements at Morganton and Valdez, $12,500 increase in funding to purchase additional books. You may remember the library director coming to you, and the board said that they would do that. Maintenance and operations does not fund requested maintenance technician position at a cost of $32,805. $30,000 funding for county's half of painting, repair of columns and cupola at the historic courthouse. $15,000 funding for trimming trees at the Wamsetta Mill Road building. That's the building that we are leasing to the Eckerness Company, and it's causing some trouble with the building. $1,160,000 reduction in funding HVAC for electrical improvements at the courthouse that was budgeted in the fiscal FY12-13 budget. That money will have to be carried over into this budget year into the new budget year, since it's not going to be expended. That project is going to go in possibly to December or January before it can be completed. A $700,000 reduction in funding for chiller and air handler at HRC. That was budgeted in the FY12-13 budget, so it won't show up in the FY13-14 budget. $75,000 reduction in funding for the generator at the HRC. Again, that's budgeted in the current year, so it will not be budgeted in the 13-14 year. $65,000 reduction in funding relocating of the Register of Deeds. That was budgeted and being handled in the current budget year. $22,500 reduction in funding of new vehicle budgeted in the FY12-13 year. $400,000 funding for cost of swapping space with Western Piedmont Community College at the Foothills Higher Education Center. Again, that work could not be completed by June 30th. It's going to have to carry over and be handled in the upcoming budget year. $205,000 funding for relocation of the district attorney and probation offices. Again, by taking the probation officers out of the basement of the courthouse and putting them in the old tax office and moving the district attorney from there into what is currently the Register of Deeds office, you're going to only have the foot traffic going to see the district attorney, the clerk of court, or going to the actual courtroom. So this will lessen the burden on the sheriff's department for trying to secure the courthouse. $150,000 funding for a generator at the courthouse, $45,000 funding for roof replacement at the Burke County Services Building, and we've discussed that during our budget work sessions as the problems that we're experiencing. $10,000 funding for signs at the courthouse and the Avery Avenue building. Those signs, if you've looked at them, have probably outlasted their normal lifetime. Non-departmental, $105,500 increase for 1% unemployment insurance charge. This is coming to us from the state of North Carolina to help pay back the money that they owe to the federal government. $540,000 funding for 2.5% cost of living adjustment. $100,000 funding for a staggered performance pay adjustment. $47,500 funding for holiday bonus pay. $90,000 increase in funding for retirees' medical insurance cost. $50,000 increase in funding for insurance cost. Probation reflects only 6 months of the cost of probation officers based in a building that we're paying a lease on the assumption that those individuals will be relocated by the end of the calendar year. So by doing this work to relocate probation officers, because about 4 or 5 of them are housed in a building off the courthouse campus that we're paying a lease on, and that was another gift to us from the state of North Carolina when they told us that we had to house the probation officers, but they didn't give us the money to house them or to pay for the utilities. Recreation, $40,000 funding for cost of a recreation master plan for Burke County. Right now, we don't have a master plan that is current enough for us to be able to go after grants for Parteef grants to help us to expand our recreation programs. Next is Senior Center, $15,000 funding to replace flat section of the roof, and $12,000 funding for front door handicap access. You go over to the Sheriff's Department. Does not fund requests for a deputy sheriff position at approximately $46,986. Does not fund a request for a second deputy sheriff position at approximately $46,986. Does not fund request for a records clerk position at approximately $39,268. Does have $64,740 funding for anticipated cost of holiday pay. And this gets into some issues at HR and how the deputy sheriffs are on a different schedule, and we have to handle them differently than regular 8 to 5 employees. $188,500 in funding for the cost of mobile field reporting. And I believe you remember the sheriff saying, by having this technology, his officers will fill out the reports in the field and transmit them by computer to their supervisor. Currently, they handwrite the things, they turn them in, and then they get reprocessed by the clerical staff at the sheriff's department. So you're eliminating some duplication and hopefully making the sheriff's officers more efficient in the field. $112,850 increase in funding for cost of acquiring and equipping 12 new vehicles. $25,735 increase in funding for the cost of 24 mobile data terminals, which will complete full deployment of those for the sheriff's office. $82,481 decrease due to the effect of correcting salaries and fringe benefits. Sheriff's, the animal control, $3,720 funding for anticipated cost of holiday pay. Sheriff's Department detention does not fund request for a deputy sheriff position at approximately $46,994. Does not fund a request for a second deputy sheriff position at approximately $46,994. Does provide funding of $39,309 for a detention officer position. Provides $18,600 funding for anticipated cost of holiday pay. Provides $50,000 increase for funding for housing inmates. Provides $20,000 increase for funding for food and medical expenses of inmates. Provides $18,000 funding for a video probable cause software system. Currently, you've got the sheriff, if they take somebody into custody, they take them over to the Burke facility and process them, then go to see the magistrate down at the old court, at the current courthouse. If the person can't make bond, then they got to put them back in the car and take them back up to Burke and lock them up a lot of times. Every time you take that person in and out of the car and in and out of those handcuffs, you give an opportunity for there to be an altercation, for a person to be injured, and it's just a waste of a lot of time. What we're trying to do is put the video probable cause there at Burke so when they process them, they can go on the video probable cause. The magistrate can see them from the courthouse here in town, process them, and if they can't make bond, then they stay at Burke There's no getting them back in the car, handcuffing them, and taking them down there and bringing them back, which is an inefficiency and an opportunity for bad things to happen. It does not fund a request for $453,000 for improvements at the downtown jail. Does not refund a request for $29,800 for a second APHIS machine with printer. Provides $46,781 increase to the effect of correcting salaries and fringe benefits. Soil and Water does not fund request for a part-time technical position at an approximate cost of $16,745. Provides $24,000 funding for a replacement vehicle. I believe you remember Kevin talking to us about his current vehicle and how the back tailgate hits him in the head. It's got over 160,000 miles and is in pretty bad shape. And he has to go out in the areas where he actually needs a four-wheel drive vehicle that works in order to do his job. Tax assessor, you'll see a $1 million decrease in funding. The new tax software is in the current FY 2012-13 budget, so it will not be seen again in the 13-14 budget. Tax collections, $122,500 funding for costs related to the new vehicle tax system. That's when you go to get your tag, you pay your property tax. Tax for EMS collections, $18,000 or $18,850 to fund the anticipated increase in billing and collection fees. In the transfers section of the budget, $450,000 transfer to capital reserve for an East Burke Library Senior Center, $275,000 transfer to capital reserve for the future construction of an EMS base back over here at our Morganton Senior Center. This places a vehicle, an ambulance, on the west side of Morganton. So instead of having to be dispatched from the hospital and come through all those traffic lights to get through town, and each traffic light that that ambulance goes through is an opportunity for a crash. And if that ambulance is involved in a crash, it is not getting to the place that it is needed to help the people who are having a medical emergency. It also cuts down time. And if the person that's having that medical emergency is having a heart attack or a stroke, 3 to 4 minutes in the response time can make a world of difference. And if you also think that we're going to have a new shopping center coming to life here in the not too distant future, and when you put 2,000-3,000 people in a space on a recurring basis, sooner or later somebody's going to have a health event and they're going to need that ambulance. Like I said, 4 minutes, 3 minutes difference, and that travel time to get there can make a world of difference in the outcome of that patient being treated. A $35,000 increase in appropriations for hold harmless payments to the school system. Western Piedmont Community College, $100,000, approximately 5% increase in funding for operational expenses, and $141,000 funding for completion of the campus cooling system replacement. Now, those are the changes in what is in our current budget and what is being looked at for your consideration tonight for approval and the budget at a 68-cent tax rate. The next slide shows you sales tax. And you'll note back in FY 2008-9, you had about almost $5 million, and that's about the time where you had a change in infrastructure in the Medicaid swap with the state of North Carolina, and it came down to $4.3 million. And then in FY 10-11, it was actually just a little over $4 million. FY 11-12, it was starting to come back a little bit, about $4.3 million. And in the FY 12-13 budget, we're looking at $4.4 million. But sales tax is subject to change. Your next slide. And this has to do with what the state legislature may or may not do to us. If the Senate budget plan goes through, we're going to have a loss of $1.2 million in sales tax anticipated. If the House budget goes through as it is, you would be looking at a little bit of an improvement on our sales tax. But until that state legislature adopts a budget, we don't know what they're going to do. And I'll remind you of one of the other things our state legislature did to us in this year. I never heard a word about it. But in October, I got notified that those tags that said permanent on it apparently wasn't permanent in the manner that I thought it was, because we had to go out and change all of them. Every vehicle we had, every trailer we had, you had to pay $6 to change that tag. Now, when you think about that across the state of North Carolina, how many cities, towns, and counties, how many vehicles do we all own? And we all had to relicense those tags with that orange and black tag. $6 a clip, and nobody knew it was coming. Another gift from the state legislature. Thank you.
Thank you. We'll now open our public hearing for the budget. Madam Clerk, did we get anybody to sign up?
We don't sign up for public hearings.
All right. How many would like to speak to the commissioners on the budget? Raise your hand. Okay, very good. We'll just start over here on the left. That's Sandy. Sandy, if you'll come on up, please introduce your name.
I'm sorry, Madam Clerk, I meant to put that on there. Thought that's, with the tax increase, I thought that's what that was. I'm Sandy Walker. I'm a resident of Valdez, 124 Main Street West in Valdez, also the owner of Dolls and Designs by Sandy, oldest and largest doll-making business in North Carolina. And so I've had to work with budgets and keeping things in line and figuring out how to make ends meet and pay bills. So I understand a little bit of what you're facing. This is a tough decision that you've got to look at. I was really shocked, though, to see a proposed increase of 16 cents. That's far more than I ever imagined it would be. And I understand that the 3 cent was to make it revenue neutral. Is that correct?
The what percent?
3 cent, is that what will make it revenue neutral?
No,
3 cent increase?
5.3.
Okay, I'm sorry. Just to mention a couple of things. My husband, as many of you know, has worked his whole life. He just had his hours cut from 40 hours a week to 25 hours a week. That's going to be a $6,000 a year loss to us. Every regular citizen's had to deal with reduced hours and losses of jobs. And I admire you for wanting to give your employees more and do things, but I see that what you're proposing for your employees, if just you give them what benefits where you're having to pay increases in that would be a raise. I think that would be plenty sufficient for your employees. I mean, how many people now, what kind of unemployment rate do we have? People that actually aren't working. I think the employees ought to be thankful they even have a job. And I've supported all of you commissioners. All of you in your campaign said that I don't want to raise taxes, I'm not going to raise taxes, and I want you to remember that, and I'll leave you with this. If you compromise what you believe because you're afraid some people won't like you, what will you stand for?
Thank you. Next in line was Richard, I believe it was you.
I came here as a couple different reasons. Got a lot of phone calls. I hadn't paid, of course, enough attention as what I should have, I guess, because being chairman of the Republican Party, we always try to elect folks in office that try to do the best to keep our taxes down. And when the phone calls started coming, I said, no, it can't be what I'm hearing. It wouldn't be the Republicans that got elected as county commissioners. But I said, well, when I listened to the county manager, talking, I'm thinking, well, I guess you're going by what he says. So I'm wondering, as Republicans, I listened to some of this, I call a lot of it mumbo jumbo, but if I had enough time, I could probably explain a lot of it to you and help you with it, because I was very aggravated with some of the numbers I heard, because I think I could fix it for you. And I don't know a whole lot. But I don't know if county manager's ever been in private management or had a company. I do. I know Jeff, and I know Maynard, I know Wayne, got businesses. But if department heads are doing that bad a job running things, you need to get somebody else. You need to hire some private individuals to run these departments, because it sounds to me like it's a mess. I don't know who caused that mess, but don't put it on these people out here that can't afford it. Because I can afford it. I'm not here to complain about it. Don't want it to go up, but there's people out here that's losing everything, and they need your help. Do what you can, this budget, do what you have to do, but try to cut what you can. But from what I'm hearing, this is enormous cost to some of these people out here. They can't afford it. It's going to hurt them. They're going to lose things. They're going to lose their homes. Just help these people out. I know you do the right thing. I know you're doing what you have to do as commissioners, and I'll back you and appreciate you for all you do. And I just hope when the vote and when you do this, you realize this is way too much, way too quick. Thank you.
Thank you. Next with the hand up was somebody. Okay, come forward, please.
Hello. I live here in Morganton. I've been here the last 44 years. My name's Dr. Aziz Omer. I don't know if any of you all have heard me, but I've been also having some issues with the city of Morganton as well, raising their taxes. That was a wonderful little explanation of all your notes. I just barely got to see it for the first time. But, you know, it's nice that everyone can get a raise in this town, but we have forgotten one little small problem. We are in our worst economic times, not only in the county and the city. I don't know how that's going with the youth prison, with the possibility of loss of 400 jobs. I don't know how that's going to impact our economy, but I guess we've all forgotten very quickly that our poverty line here in the city of Morganton and the county is somewhere near 24%, not to mention an unemployment rate close to 10.7%. We are in our worst economic times. It's quite appalling to see that we can create a budget of any kind that we choose, and among all you members, I respect that you can find these areas, but we have to look at the greater good of our community. I didn't see that on that board, that we're looking at the greater community, because it wouldn't matter if we hurt the majority of our community citizens here who have all either voted you in or anybody else. We have to come to a reasonable amount, and that is not a reasonable amount. But if you live in a city like myself, then it'd be a 16 plus 5, that's 21%. That's just extremely outrageous. And we can continue to say, where does this really stop? And they say, well, are we really going to hurt the rest of everyone else? I say, well, you know, it's okay. Inmates may have more rights than us one day, because eventually, you know, it's like you said, are we giving incentives to Walmart? Are we giving them, we'll give them a big light, we're going to make a big paved road for them and say, well, ambulances need to get over there, or whatever needs to happen. We understand that we require safety. It's wonderful, our police force, our sheriffs, we appreciate all of them, but you know what? The rest of the community citizens who don't have jobs, they're on fixed incomes, disabled, barely able to hang on to their homes or anything else they have, or you know, that's really a bad situation. Say, well, 16%, and then what about those community people that are in the city who also have to shell out another 5% on top of that, and say, well, let's not forget their homes. Their values are going down. It just doesn't even make sense to raise their taxes even more on those people. Well, people buy their homes to supposedly have an investment. If their investment's going down in value and then you charge them more taxes, it just doesn't even make sense whatsoever. Thank you for your time.
Thank you. Next, Jim, I believe you're.
Jim Jackman here. Chairman Taylor, Vice Chairman Carswell, Commissioners Abley, Britton, and Carroll. We appreciate so very much the effort you make in behalf of citizens of this county. Most of you, I think, probably know I had an opportunity to serve in the same seat you're in on 2 different terms, and still struggle with those same kinds of things you're struggling with. But the main thing I want to tell you tonight is this isn't normal. What we're in today in Burke County is not normal. You can't treat it that way. You folks have got to think about those 80,000 plus that couldn't be here tonight to tell you their problems, why they can't afford this. You see, even if you charge them the same amount this year you charged them last year, it's a greater burden on them. They don't have the resources this year they had last year. Folks, you got to keep that in mind. We serve people, not agencies, not departments. We serve people as county commissioners in this county. And it's a responsibility that you have to each one of them. I'm reminded a number of years ago I served on the Valley's Hospital Board, and each year they'd come in with the budget, and you know what the solution was every time? Raise room rate. I'm the only individual on that board to vote against raising the room rate. I said, we got to find some savings. We got to go the other direction. Commissioners, we can't raise the room rate anymore in Burke County. We just can't do it. Folks don't have the ability to pay it. We've got to start looking at savings. We've got to start looking at reorganizing county government. It can be done. I was tickled to death to read today about at the state level down there, they got to looking about how they could cut their expenses, and lo and behold, school buses The rules in the past, 200,000 miles, and I think 20 years was the limit. To say you got to change them, got to buy a new one after that. School buses have diesel engines in them. Every business in this county runs a diesel engine in excess of 1 million miles. They changed that just 50,000 miles. Saved $29 million by doing that. 2 years from now, it'll be $37 million. Folks, we got to take a new look at things. There's savings out there. We just get in that same slot that every year we do it the same way. We look at what everybody's asking, we cut that back some. We never look about reducing government to match the needs of the people. In Burke County today, we've got a situation that we've never experienced before. And we've got to take that into consideration. We've got to reorganize government. We've got to get government in line with the ability of people to pay for government. That's all there is to it. Now, if I may, I'd like to read to you a letter that our representation has asked me to share with you this evening. It states, Dear Chairman Taylor, Vice Chairman Carswell, and Commissioners Abley, Britton, and Carroll.
Sorry.
We regret we are unable to be with you tonight due to the fact that our presence is required in Raleigh for the legislative session. It is truly an honor to serve alongside you as elected leaders of the citizens of Burke County. We fully appreciate the time and sacrifice your position requires, and thank you for your service. We're all serving in difficult economic times that require us as leaders to make tough decisions.
Jim, can you wrap it up? You've run past the time. Can you wrap it up in just a few minutes, a few seconds?
I just want to read the letter to you. I'm through
Okay.
after the letter. Okay. This is from your representation. In 2011, when Republicans took control of the North Carolina General Assembly for the first time in over 100 years, we inherited a broken state government that was saddled with a $3 billion deficit. It was a mountain that, at that time, seemed almost too steep to climb. But we were determined to solve our state's financial crisis. In doing so, we vowed to the people of North Carolina that we would not raise their taxes, but that we would lessen the size and scope of government and look for creative ways to save money across the state. We were told on many occasions that it couldn't be done, but we were not deterred. Despite the cries of those who said the budget couldn't be balanced without raising taxes, we held the line. We refused to raise taxes on the struggling businesses and families of our state. So we tightened our belt, made hard choices, and got our state spending under control. In the process, there were some good projects and programs that had to be deferred, or for which funding was reduced, at least for the present or until increased revenues became available. As a result, we believe our state's economy has turned the corner and that North Carolina is slowly moving toward economic recovery. While the toughest part of balancing the state budget is now behind us, we still face a crucial budget decision related to the massive cost overruns of federally mandated Medicaid program. Over the next 2 years, Medicaid costs are expected to increase more than $1 billion. This is putting enormous pressure on many other parts of our state budget. It is true that members of the Republican majority in Raleigh may disagree on many of the specifics on how to deal with these cost overruns. However, what we do agree on is that we will not raise taxes on North Carolina's hardworking taxpayers in order to deal with budget shortfalls. In fact, to do so would most likely be another drag on our economic recovery and would add the additional burden of higher taxes to the hardships of citizens already struggling with unemployment, reduced income, higher energy costs, and other problems that left North Carolina with the 5th highest unemployment rate in the nation. We realize you as...
Jim, I'm sorry, I'm going to have to call the time. It's going too long.
If I could, Mr. Chairman, let me give you a copy of this then.
That'd be fine.
We'll try to make a copy available to our media.
Next. Everybody happy? That was the wrong word. Everybody's spoken that wants to speak. That's the correct terminology. All right, we'll close our public meeting portion. And commissioners, any discussion, question, comments about the budget?
Mr. Chairman, I have some comments I'd like to share with the people out there
Absolutely. Go ahead.
in the audience. when this budget was presented, I looked at the numbers, and I didn't see anything that the county manager read off that we need to fund that is essential to the county as we stand today. What has happened in the county for years, and I talked about this last year and still talk about it, and the reason we're in this shape, there has been a failure of having some kind of a short-range and a long-range plan, such as a 10-year plan. And we wouldn't be in this situation today if that had taken place. I pushed for that, and we've been in office for 7 months, almost, and not one meeting has been conducted to discuss a plan as to how we want to drive this county forward. With a plan, you know from year to year what's on the table, what's on the plate, and what's going to be funded and what's not going to be funded. But we don't have that. And here we are tonight talking about a 16-cent tax rate on you people. I don't support that, and I will not vote for it. Thank you.
Okay, Jack, anybody else? Any other comment?
Mr. Chairman, I might just make a few comments. I appreciate those who came tonight and made presentations to us. I appreciate Mr. Carroll's comments as well. I appreciate the budget that's been prepared by our manager. If you followed his presentation tonight, you saw that it started out with an $82 million request from our departments. So I think it's obvious that we have not just simply given everything that we've been asked for. The budget as it concluded was some, I believe, $74 billion, $73 million. That's a long way from $82 million. As I look at the budget and think about what has happened in the past 7 to 10 years, I look at the 52-cent tax rate that we have enjoyed, and as I think about that, I look at what the effective tax rate is across North Carolina. If you look at those numbers that is used by the State Department of Revenue to try to put all counties on an equal footing, I think if you do the math, you'll see the average effective tax rate in North Carolina is about 65 cents. We've been operating for the last 7 years at a 52-cent rate. That's almost 20% below the average effective rate. And I would also, if my memory is correct, before that, we actually reduced the tax rate at that time. So it's been 10 years since we actually saw a tax rate increase in Burke County. Now, if you look at the rate we're talking about, from the neutral rate to the 68 cents is about an 18 or 19% increase. You think about what kind of increases have you seen in your personal lives over these last 7 to 10 years? That's about, on an annual basis, about a 2% or less increase per year in what we're seeing. So that's the way that I measure where we are. 2 years ago, roughly, we did a study in Burke County to look at where we stack up with all the counties around us. Counties about our same size. Burke County was below average in every category in that study. That was 2 years ago. And I can assure you we've continued to go down further in that length of time. So as I consider what we as a board must do, yes, from a sheer number standpoint, I can understand where the comments come from tonight. But when I consider what we as a board must do and take this train that I believe kind of went off the track several years ago, and within the last year it rolled over, and we are now faced with either getting the train uprighted and headed back in the right direction. If we refuse to address that, then I think what we would be doing to this county is simply putting up the "we're going out of business" sign. And I don't think that's what Burke County wants. I think we all understand that we have to work together. When I think about what my family has faced in terms of cost of living over the past 7 to 10 years, there's no doubt in my mind that that cost has been far more increased than 2 or 3%. So I think it's evident in what we've been doing that our county has worked hard. In fact, we've worked hard each year, so hard that we've driven our fund balance down to we're looking at the bottom of it. And we simply cannot continue to operate our budget from the fund balance. So, Mr. Chairman, I have said all I want to say, sir.
All right. Thank you, Jeff. Anyone else?
Mr. Chairman, I'd like to echo some of the things that Jeff said. Some of y'all that have called me at home over the last weeks and told me why you voted for me, I appreciate that. But I still think that I have to take care of every one of you that's sitting in this room and everybody, like the Senator said, that's not in this room tonight also. We have experienced an economic turndown, but I think we've made some great decisions on this board over the last couple of years, and we've added some great people to the county that's turning this county around and making it more efficient. I'm going to be one of those ones that loses their jobs at Western Youth, and I don't relish the fact that we're going to have to raise taxes, but the county has to move forward. You've asked for this county to move forward. The majority of the people here want this county to move forward, and the only way we can get good economic development is to provide training here. We have sat down with our school personnel who are standing back here in the back of this room, and we've worked hard to develop a plan, and we came up with a good one, and I appreciate the fact that they're here tonight. I'm going to disappoint some people tonight on some things that I promised them that I was going to do that I've been forced through the calls that I've got that I'm not going to be able to do it, and I apologize to you for that. And I'll expound upon that part a little bit later. But we have to move Burke County forward. We just cannot sit in this fund balance and keep borrowing from it. We can't balance this budget on your backs borrowing from that fund balance. I don't want the state to take us over. And that's what's going to happen. The LGC looks at us. We're in such bad shape we can't even borrow money to do the capital projects need to be done. This building, the roof on it right now, you folks don't know that it has to be replaced. The roof that was put on it, the people, unfortunately, it was bad people that put it on. I'm sorry that it was like that, and we're going to have to redo the roof. It's just one of those things that have to be done. Our whole infrastructure is falling apart. We don't even make enough money on our water system to pay for itself. We forked that out of the county budget to pay for the water here. These kids deserve an education. These people deserve jobs here in this county, and you elected us to do what was right. You didn't elect me to not do a tax increase. And I hate you feel like that. I thought you elected me to do what was right and what was good for the people of this county. And we all lose sleep over that. We sit here and talk about how we lose sleep over it. We worry about these children sitting over here. Another decision that's made tonight, these children need a place to play. We want them to play. But we can't get you together to even let the kids play somewhere. I don't want to put the blame on anybody, but there's so much uncertainty, Senator, in Raleigh right now. You've got the Tillis budget, you got the Burke budget, you got all kinds of budgets out there, and it could cost us money. And we can't live on uncertainties. And we can't move this county forward on uncertainties. I'm sorry that I probably disappointed some of you and that you thought I'm not a robot. I'm a human being that has to look at these things the way they are. And the money has to be divided up between the people that need it. Everybody needs to have a quality of life. That's what economic development is all about. You can look at all the models out there and everybody says it's education or it's this. It's not. It's about quality of life. People want to come in here and find good people that are willing to work, and we have it here in Burke County. And we need to promote that. And we've worked hard on this budget, and we've listened to everybody there, and we trimmed it as much as we could. Everybody wants to stomp on the county manager. God, the man's doing everything he can do to try to make it good. I've been accused of being, well, the county manager's not your friend. No, he's not my friend. He don't come to my house and I don't go to his. We employ him to come out with something and make a budget. He does, he puts it out there, and it's up to us to make a decision, and we gotta have the backbone to make that decision. I've got the backbone to make it, and I know what I feel needs to be done for the people of this county.
Thank you. Anybody else? Let me make a comment or two, maybe bring a smile to your face. How many of you have ever had the opportunity that you felt like a preacher was going to preach a service to the congregation, and you knew when you got done, 90% of them wasn't going to like you for a while? That's kind of the situation we kind of got ourselves into. And I've talked to, like Johnny and Jack and Jeff, Wayne, we've all talked to lots of people, some of them redundant. I've got 4 children that live within a mile of me, grandkids, getting married, and the last thing I'd want to do is pass an unburdensome tax on my own kids. But we are faced with a difficult situation. I told Jimmy Jackman earlier today I would have never believed I'd be sitting in a chair looking at a tax rate of 68 cents. It's not as bad as some people assume that it is. When you take the devaluation and equaling out what we've been taking from the fund balance, that's about 11 cents. So you're up to about 63, and so you got about 5 cents more tax. I did charts. The manager's done charts. Somebody with a $100,000 house is going to pay about $90 a year more in taxes. Other people, like in Maynard's shape, where his property is worth $300,000, tax is going to go up $340,000, or about a Coke or a Pepsi or a tea at Bojangles a day, and that's what the tax is going to be. If I had one thing that I asked you to do on the behalf of everybody around here, is to be reasonable with your analyzing. Everything that you feel, eat, consume, wear, drive, it doesn't make any difference. 90% of the things that you do have drastically gone up in price in the last 3 or 4 years. That alone should make and help you understand a little bit of the plight that the county commissioners are in. I had my tire store the other day tell me tires is up 60% wholesale in 2 years. You and I and our employees use all those things, all of us. It just, one of the things that, and I think, and we've discussed this at length, and I'll say this and move on, that the cost of maintaining services and mandatory things over the past 6-7 years has gone up sharper than the income to take care of it, or the revenue. And that's basically where this board is tonight, as long as your state boards and your federal government, they're all in the same boat. And we've got to somehow or another do what we feel is being good stewardships and good stewards for Burke County citizens. I'll open the, once more, anybody else comment, closing comment? Okay. Chair will entertain a motion. And I believe, incidentally, let me correct me if I'm wrong, there's 3 motions.
Yes, sir.
Mr. Chairman, I move to adopt the 2014 budget, Burke County Budget Ordinance Number 2013-09 for the general fund. I move to adopt. You want to do these separately, Brian, or does it have to go together? Mr. Attorney?
Separate, please.
Okay, the first motion is to adopt the 2014 Burke County Budget Ordinance Number 2013-09 for the general fund.
Thank you, Mr. Curl. Question or comment? All those in favor, raise your right hand. Opposed, like sign. 4-1, Madam Clerk. Second motion.
Mr. Chairman, I move to adopt the 2014 Burke County Capital Reserve Fund resolutions number 2013-28 and 29.
Any comment or question? All those in favor, raise your right hand. Opposed, like sign. 4-1, Madam Clerk.
Mr. Chairman, I move to approve the memorandum of agreement between the Burke County and the Burke County Board of Education as presented in the agenda.
Any question or comment? All those in favor, raise your right hand. Opposed, like sign. 4-1, Madam Clerk. Okay, we have a second public hearing scheduled, and I'll turn it over to County Manager Brian Steen.
Thank you, Mr. Chairman, members of the board. We have before us a request to assist the town of Hildebrand with the Economic Development Grant. This was to Contour Enterprises, LLC, foam and fiber fabrication. Town of Hildebrand was awarded a $40,000 grant from the NC Rural Center to support the reuse of a 28,000 square foot building located at 3346 Clarence Tower Circle. The former hosiery facility was constructed in 1955 and has been vacant for 18 months. Contour Enterprises, LLC, a foam and fiber fabrication company, will locate in the building to meet their growing demand. The funding is contingent upon the creation of 4 new jobs. The county agreed to provide 50%, that being $1,000 of the total local match of $2,000. So the county is to provide $1,000 and the town of Hildebrand will provide a match of $1,000.
Okay. We will open the public hearing. Anybody here to speak on this issue? Hearing none, we will close the public hearing. Any comment or question from the Board of Commissioners? Hearing none, the chair will entertain a motion.
Mr. Chairman, I move to approve the appropriation of $1,000 for the Contour Enterprises LLC foam and fiber fabrication Town of Hildebrand grant project through the NC Rural Center.
Thank you, Johnny. All those in favor, will you raise your right hand? 5-0, Madam Clerk. Next on the agenda is the consent agenda. Would y'all like a break before you go into that, or you want to continue?
Mr. Chairman, we skipped informal public comments.
Do up?
Informal public comment?
Oh. Okay, I apologize. We had so many doing the other ones. Do we have anybody signed up, Madam
We
Clerk?
do. Let me get my timer
Yeah.
going back on here.
Would you please call them up in the order they signed up and remind all of you that you're limited to 3 minutes?
Mr. Tom Debo?
Thank you. My name is Tom Devo. I live out at Lake James, and I know you've probably heard a lot about the village of Lake James. And after what I've heard tonight, maybe I can express an opinion that you might agree with. I'm a hydrologist. I've been studying lakes and rivers for the last 40 years. And Lake James is a jewel of western North Carolina. But the thing about a lake is you've got to look big and not small. Lake is affected by activities miles from its shoreline, not just the people that live around the lake. But the biggest thing I want to leave you tonight is we do not, 95% of the latest poll in our neighborhood, we do not want to form a village and leave Burke County. We want to be part of Burke County. I keep going to meetings and hear control our own destiny. Well, I don't know what that means, except it seems to mean in the meetings I've been to, that means we want to create something separate, a village separate from Burke County, where we can do things and don't have to worry about the county. I don't want to do that. I want to be part of Burke County. You don't need to lose us from Burke County. Burke County, McDowell County, and areas outside that are what are going to protect Lake James for the future. This is not a resource for just those that live around the lake. All right, we do not want to be separated from Burke County. We want to be part of this county. And I teach in the School of City and Regional Planning. I won't tell you what university, because that would affect my credibility. But there are places around the country, all over the place, that are forming these little paper villages and cities to get out from under other municipalities. It's a big mistake, in my opinion. We should be, instead of doing this, we should be putting our effort into controlling the lake and controlling what's going on in Burke County, educating people on what a resource you've got. I feel blessed that I can live there. It is a wonderful facility for everybody in the county, and you don't need to lose our tax base. So my plea is, if there is anything you can do to help us kill the idea of having a separate village with self-interest outside of Burke County, a lot of us would appreciate it. And I think your tax base would appreciate it. I think that's all I've got. I was told 2 minutes, so I've got it down to 2 minutes. But we appreciate what you've done. I have had to take trees down in Burke County. I have had to deal with your people. I've lived all over the U.S. This is an excellent county. Please don't lose us.
Thank you.
I'm sorry,
Appreciate
sir,
those
would you
comments.
repeat your name, please?
What was your name, sir? Your name?
Yeah, Tom Debo, D-E-B-O. I don't know if that's a good thing to give you or not. But you also have my phone number, so whatever.
Thank you, sir. Next, Madam Clerk.
Next would be Jo Marie Coburn.
Good evening, and thank you very much for the opportunity to speak tonight on the bill that is now in the House Finance Committee, Senate Bill 312, Incorporation of the Village of Lake James. My name is Jo Marie Coburn, and I am a full-time resident of South Point and a neighbor of Tom Debo. My neighbors and I are here not just as residents of the South Point neighborhood, nor are we here to represent the over 90% of registered voters in our neighborhood who oppose this bill. We are here tonight because we care about Burke County and the negative impact that establishment of the Village of Lake James would have on our county. Many of my neighbors spend countless hours volunteering in this county and see the needs daily. Regardless of the actual sum that the village would siphon from this county, any funds diverted to an upscale neighborhood would hurt those less fortunate. While I can fully understand the board's position to let the people decide, I would ask you to consider those to whom services will be curtailed if the people at the lake decide to set up this exclusive enclave. They have no vote in this matter, and their needs are greater than any want anyone in the village may have. Proponents say that we will have a greater voice if the village is established. People like us will always have a voice. We will always have a seat at the table. Please do not let the wants of a few override the needs and opinions of many. I have heard unofficial numbers that approximately 90% of the residents of Greater Burke County are also against establishment of this village. If your stance of let the people decide remains, you may enable a simple majority of no more than 287 people to take this decision in a county of 89,000 or over 80,000 people. Please express to the legislature your belief that SB 312 will negatively impact Burke County. Thank you.
Thank you, Mrs. Corbin. Next, Madam Clerk.
Christy Bear.
Hi, my name is Christy Bear, and I am a homeowner and now a higher taxpayer than I was an hour ago. And that's okay, in the South Point subdivision. But I am also an elected official in Rutherford County. This is a second home where we hope to retire. And in a time, which obviously you've been talking about, where virtually every county, city, and town across North Carolina, including Burke County, are struggling to meet their budgets and maintain their services, there is a group that is hoping to incorporate and create a new layer of government, but provide basically no new services. This is bad for the community, bad for our neighborhood, and bad for Burke County. At an information session recently, they presented unrealistic, outdated materials that, by their own admission, they have to start out small. And they admitted that the services are just pass-through. For example, instead of paying for my own trash through GDS, they will tax me and pay for it for me at a larger rate, I must say. They talked about capturing their portion of the funds owed to them from Burke County, which I assume refers to a redistribution of the sales and use tax funds, which again we know are up for debate in the legislature. This is bad for the entire county, as the reduction of county revenue would affect not only myself, it would affect the entire county. I hope that the commissioners will take a look at this issue and see how bad it is for our neighborhoods, but really how bad it is for Burke County, and speak out to the legislature against this proposal of incorporation of the village of Lake James. Thank you.
Thank you, Mrs. Bear.
Graham Morgan.
Mr. Chairman, Commissioners, my name is Graham Morgan. I'm a 11-year resident at South Point, and we are requesting that the Commissioners either individually or collectively support excluding South Point and Dry Creek from the proposed village of Lake James. Last week, our HOA Board of Directors conducted a survey, and 97% of the homeowners and the lot owners voted no to being part of the village of Lake James. Other developments have been asked to be excluded and have been, but not so South Point and Dry Creek. At a time when Morganton and Burke County have budget challenges and are struggling to maintain vital services, losing sales taxes and other revenues to create another level of government makes absolutely no sense. Proponents have a selling point. With a village, you control your own destiny. Now that makes very good conversation. But with 25% of the vote in the proposed village, South Point and Dry Creek mathematically couldn't even elect a dog catcher. However, South Point and Dry Creek is currently 50% of the tax revenues for the proposed village. The proponents have a wish list. In addition to starting low or starting small, they talk about a town hall, an EMS, and a bunch of other things that just are financially at the moment not possible. This could only mean higher taxes and adjustments or amendments or assessments in the future. Their budget proposal at the June 12th information meeting showed it to be a make-believe or purely a paper village. In line with what Christie said, the lighting is now paid by our HOA directly to Duke Power. In addition, Dry Creek has a covenant that they can have no street lighting. So in essence, they'd be paying for something that they don't even have or have access to. Solid waste disposal, we individually handle that through GDS. Zoning, we're quite happy with the way Burke County does that. Thank you very much. Police, the sheriff takes very, very good care of us, and under their plan, we would receive less assistance in that area. Lot owners represent about 72% who aren't, or lot owners that 72% who aren't registered voters yet because they haven't built their houses will be taxed without even getting a vote.
Now, I didn't receive my civic lessons in the United States, but I always understood that taxation without representation was not fair. My neighbors and I want to be part of the whole community. We volunteer for Habitat for Humanity. Some of us served on the Burke Duke Power relicensing program for 3 years, the Habitat Enhancement Program for Burke County, where we're preserving Lake James, Big Brothers and Big Sisters, and all kinds of lake cleanups and other programs. We ask the commissioners to help us defeat this paper village for the good of all the citizens of Burke County. Thank you.
Thank you.
Adam Brown.
Hello, Commissioners. Thank you for allowing me to speak. My name is Adam Brown. I'm a father of 4. I'm a coach. I'm a parent. And I'm a friend to many in the Drexel community. As you all know, we've been having issues in Drexel, and we're coming to you guys to help us solve this problem. For the past 3 years, I've been a member of the Drexel Chargers. Prior to that, I was a member of the Drexel Booster Club for 6 years. The Drexel Booster Club has a broken system. It was a broken system. The Charger parents wanted a place where they could voice their opinions, participate with their children, be kept informed of what's going on, and to be respected. As a father of 4, I teach my kids to be honest, to be respectful, law-abiding, and to be involved with their community. I teach them they can make a difference. The Chargers have made a positive difference in the Drexel community. The Chargers have followed the rules. We have had monthly meetings. We have followed the rules. We've had great parent and community support. As commissioners of Burke County, are you going to show these kids that you get nowhere if you follow the rules, that it's okay to be rule breakers? Is that what we're showing our kids? That it's okay. And that's not to succeed in making a difference, a positive difference in their community. Parents can't help in a system that doesn't have meetings, and where rules are changed at a drop of a hat to whatever the board wants done. Please vote for our Charger kids to be allowed to continue playing in Burke County. We've had some great support from our surrounding communities. We hear positive comments from other coaches, from other parents. We hear a conflicting message from our so-called recreation committee that voted us not to play in the county. The same organizations that call the Chargers when they host tournaments at their organizations want us to come play, the Chargers to come play in their tournaments, only to support their organizations. If they don't want us in the county, why call us play in their tournaments? This is Valdez, Oak Hill, W.A. Young, Salem. All these, we've played with these same communities as Drexel Chargers that's allowed us to play in their tournaments as well. Please look at these kids and their needs for a positive, organized sports organizations. I ask you to take away the politics, the personal vendettas, and the rumors that you may have heard. Vote to keep us Chargers in the county, keep our tax dollars in this county. I'm a taxpayer just like everybody else in this room. You just voted to raise our taxes. Keep us in the county, it's where the money's at. Thank you.
Suzanne Kaminsky.
Hi, my name is Suzanne Kaminsky. Like Mr. Brown said, I'm a parent, I'm a coach, I'm a coordinator. I am secretary for the Booster Club, and I am also the representative for the Drexel Booster Club. And once again, it's come back before us to decide on the situation. I have a letter from the board that they would like me to read to you guys. It says, the Drexel Booster Club is the legitimate program for the youth sports in the Drexel School District. If anyone in the Charger program wants to play in the county league, all they have to do is come and sign back up with the Booster Club where they should be in the first place. The Drexel Booster Club is in good standings with the County Parks and Recs Department, the County Recreation Commission, the IRS, and the state of North Carolina. The Chargers were not forced out of the Booster Club program. They left on their own free will and started their own program with the town of Drexel. They had run the Booster Club for 2 years, but got voted out of serving on the board or coordinating any of the sports program because the people of the Booster Club felt they had run the program for just their kids and their buddies' kids and not for all the kids. We meet with the supporters and the parents of the Booster Club every 3 months, and we do not allow any other members of another program to participate in our meetings. The Charger people have no business at our meetings or our financial records. For 2.5 years now, their goal has been to destroy the Booster Club by any means possible. Slandering, causing rumors, false arrests, trying to take Halliburton Gym away from the use of the Booster Club, and giving it to the town of Drexel. We have followed all the guidelines and the rules set by the commissioners and the Parks and Recreation Department. We were not the ones who disobeyed your last motion. The Booster Club has not taken any action against the Charger program. It's all been one-sided. We offer all sports. We have the largest indoor soccer program and almost the largest basketball program in the county. You can ask Treg or Gary. As long as we have parents that support us and are willing to play with us, we will continue to support the kids in the town of the Drexel and the kids at the Drexel elementary schools. Thank you.
You've asked us to come play. You put us on 6 months probation in September. At that point in time, you told us that if we followed the rules and everything, that we would be allowed to play in this organization. And with that being said, I will say that from the assistant athletic director of the Burke County Parks and Recreation, he has said we followed every rule to the T, had no problems. In the April meeting, Mr. Steen agreed that we'd follow the rules except for one, and that was that we did not allow the Drexel Booster Club to use the facilities of the R.O. Huffman Center, which you as the Burke County voted to back out of. We have no control over that center. We can't tell Drexel Booster Club they can use it as much as we can tell Valdez they could use it. After football season and basketball, we were allowed to use it for indoor soccer, and we did. But we have no control over this building to let anybody use it. We don't own it. We don't have a contract on it. So how can we violate one of your rules? That's not our rule. Every other rule, you said we had stacked teams. We did not. You said we would recruit. We did not. Every player lives in the city of Drexel. We have 140 to 150 strong. Right now, presently, we have at least 25 to 30 that want to flip-flop over, but they don't want to travel. They can't afford to travel. If you allow us to participate in the county, these people are going to flop. You know, I mean, you can say what you want to about both organizations. They're both good. We've asked you to kick out nobody. We've asked you to let both teams participate. If both teams make it, that's great. If one organization doesn't make it, come back together, play together, do what you got to do. But as you stated, probation, 6 months. Mr. Taylor, you said 6 months probation. You voted against it. And now you've got a crawl. It's stuck in your crawl that you got beat, and now you're taking it out. People have called you, and you said we've violated all kinds of rules. You cannot get Mr. Steen to tell you or anybody at Burke County we violated rules. And I think you owe a lot of people from the Chargers organization an apology for making that statement.
Mr. Summers, I'm not supposed
I'm
to
not
respond
finished. I've got
to
3
you.
minutes. Let me use my 3 minutes, sir.
You go ahead.
And if you want to address it, I can address you after the meeting because we've invited you to several meetings and you have not attended. We invited everybody on this board to attend. But I don't want to get off on that. I just want to say our tax money is built here in Burke County. We want to spend it in Burke County. We are prepared to leave and go back to Catawba, Caldwell, and Alexander and play. You just voted 16% increase on our taxes. Let us spend our money here. Let us help you. Don't deter us from helping you and keep raising our taxes. Thank you.
If the commissioners will allow me one statement in response, and we don't usually do this. Mr. Summers, you're confusing what happened when you started the Boosters Club from when we put you on probation. I never said you broke probation after we put you on probation. You're confusing those two different entities. That's okay. I'll talk to you anytime you want to talk. Next.
That was it?
Is that it? That's good. That's good. Do you want a break or you would like to continue? It's up to the board. I'm fine to continue.
Let's get through the consent agenda anyways.
Do what?
Let's get through the consent agenda.
Okay. We'll recognize Brian Steen for the consent agenda.
Thank you, Mr. Chair. Members of the board, on your consent agenda, you have 9 items. First is clerk acceptance of grant progress report submitted by Western Piedmont Council of Government to the Department of Community Services. Number 2 is clerk reappointment of County Manager Brian Steen to the BDI Board of Directors. Number 3 is clerk appointment to Nursing Home Community Advisory Committee. Number 4 is JCPC reappointment of members to the JCPC. Number 5, Senior Center appointment to the Council on Aging. Number 6, Tax Office EMS Collections Report for March and April 2013. Number 7, Tax Office Release and Refund Report for April 2013. Number 8, Tax Office Tax Collection Report for April and May 2013. And 9, Tax Office Resolution granting relief from collecting taxes on the insolvent list. That concludes the consent agenda.
Okay. Chair will entertain a motion if there's no discussion.
So moved, Mr. Chairman.
Thank you, Wayne. All those in favor, raise your right hand. 5-0, Madam Clerk. You want to continue or you want to break? Say you wanted to break? Let's take a 5-minute recess. We'll rejoin in about 5 minutes, 25 to 8. Thank you. Convene. Our next item on the agenda are items for decision. We're bringing up the appointment to Western Piedmont Community College Board of Trustees. I will recognize Madam Clerk.
Thank you, Mr. Chairman. The Burke County Board of Commissioners appoints 4 members to the Board of Trustees for Western Piedmont Community College. The term of appointment for Ruth Ann Suttle ends June 30th, 2013. Applications from the following citizens are currently on file for your consideration: Leslie Cothran, Kenneth Day, Dan Keenert, Marjorie Livesey, and Miss Ruth Ann Suttle.
Boy, what a good selection. Couldn't we use all 6 of them? Any discussion on this matter?
Mr. Chairman, I hereby nominate Mrs. Ruth Ann Suttle to that position. She's been doing that for the last term, and she's done a great job from what I understand, and she is a former commissioner.
Okay, thank you, Wayne.
Mr. Chairman, I'd like to nominate Dan Keener. When you look at the position on the community college, you look for someone to be on that board that has a background in education. That's what it's all about. And if you look at all the applications for that, we have 2 people that pretty well has a good background in education, Dan Keener and Marge Livesey. So and they're also very active in the GOP party in Burke County. And so that's one reason that I would like to nominate Dan Keener to fill that position.
Okay, thank you, Jack. Any other nomination? Could I hear a motion to move that the nominations be closed?
So moved.
All those in favor, raise your right hand, 5, please. Okay. Was that a vote, Jack?
Or,
Close nominations.
okay.
Yeah, 5-0, Madam Clerk.
I was looking at these applications.
We will take them the way they were nominated. All those in favor of Ruth Ann Suttle, raise your right hand. 3-2, Madam Clerk. Dan Kennard. Okay. The nomination goes to Ruth Ann Suttle. Thank you very much. Item 2, continuation of probationary period for the Drexel Chargers and the Burke County Recreation Program. That's brought to us by our County Manager, Brian Stain.
Thank you, Mr. Chairman. At a previous meeting, the board had this brought before them. A motion was made and acted upon to send a notice to the town of Drexel regarding this, and we are reporting back what we received from the town of Drexel to the board, as I believe my understanding of the instruction, the desire of the board was to hear back in June. So you have the, excuse me, the information there in your agenda book.
Thank you. Comment or question on this subject?
Mr. Chairman, I think, this has went on for a long time, and I don't think there's any of us up here that want to deny anybody from playing. I think every child in Burke County, I mean, they should be able to play in our recreation league. I don't know how, we asked for them to come to some conclusion, the two groups, and maybe the conclusion they came to we didn't like or whatever, but somehow I'd like to resolve this thing where we can allow both groups to play, and even though I don't agree with a lot of things going on here, I think that if they live in Burke County, they sure as heck ought to be able to play in Burke County, and I'm really against them going out of the county. I'm not sure how we handle this with both groups. I think both groups are doing well. I think I've been to some of the events. I don't see any problem with whatever, but I don't know if we continue with both groups or and what we do, but I just want to see this. It's been going on too long. The county commission should have never got involved in this thing, I don't think, but it's a Drexel thing. But again, I think all kids in Burke County should be able to play, and however we can craft that, it would suit me very fine.
Questions or comments?
The only comment I have, Mr. Chairman, is simply this. It's amazing to me that a town such as Drexel, or any other town for that matter, the citizens can't come together and agree to allow their kids to play sports in a program. And I don't know what it is about the separation between the groups and what the issues are. This is not the way to raise children. Dispute among family members in a community such as Drexel is. And I am like what Wayne said, these kids need to be able to play sports in the county. And they're not being able to do that because of the grown-ups. So I think it's time, and if we have to make the decision for the elected officials in this town, then I think it's time to do that. And so I think we need to address that issue in that manner and just make a decision final once and for all. They might not like it, some of them might like it, some of them might not like it, but that's what they'll have to work out between them after the decision is made.
Mr. Chairman, would there be one, could we do one more time, maybe take 2 members from each board and 2 commissioners, and the 6 of them sit down and come to some kind of conclusion? We got to do it fast because of football coming up, but it's just went on too long, and You know, you listen to both sides. They're both good people on both sides. I know a lot of the people on both sides, I think. But I'd be willing to, one more time, if we could, maybe the commissioner, if the two commissioners sitting on with the two members from each board, maybe they could force the issue, force the hand to, bring this to some kind of conclusion. But I'm really tired of it. And like Jack said, it's, every child should be able to play in Burke County if they live in Burke County, by gosh. And they're paying taxes here, and they should be able to play.
Mr. Chairman?
Yes.
I've listened to both sides of this issue very carefully for a number of months. And as I hear it, I want to first of all commend both groups. It takes a lot of work to work these kind of organizations. I have had experience in those myself. And I appreciate all that's been done. I want to assure you, I believe this board wants all of our kids to play in Burke County. And as I think about it, I think if we're all honest, we have to agree that the best solution would be for us all to work together, the community to come together as one and not constantly be competing with one another. Our communities are small and they have limited resources. And by competing with one another, we're all competing for that same number of kids, those same number of leaders, those same number of parents. It makes it very difficult. Then we got our kids going to school. Little Johnny's sitting between his friends. Well, I'm playing for this group. Well, I want you to play for this group. No, you ought to play for this group. It just creates more conflict and competition. I think we all have to agree if it would be best if we work together. So, Mr. Chairman, I'd like to bring a motion. I'd like to kind of summarize the motion so that folks can hear it in some fashion. Our county manager, back in, I believe it was April, presented a potential motion, and we did not bring that forward at that time. But I'd like for us to consider that tonight, and I'd like to just summarize it, and so that maybe I can get it across. I would like to move that we move forward with one athletic organization in the area, in the Drexel area, with the recreation clubs. It would begin basically September the 1st. The whole idea is not to disrupt any kids from any sports. Work this so that we know basketball signups, I believe, begin September 20th. So this would be effective September the 1st. It would begin with the termination of the Charger organization effective September 1st. It would also require a new election for the Drexel Booster Club. Both clubs would come together along with those who are eligible parties in Drexel on August the 24th at the Conference Center here in Morganton. This would be an open election. A new board would be elected. All folks would be eligible to vote. Each club president would be responsible for agreeing on who could vote in that election, or agreeing that that person is eligible to vote in that election. I think where we sit tonight, we have a decision to make. Do we do all that we can as a board to bring the Drexel community back together, or do we drive the final wedge between them? And I think we owe it to this community to do all we can as a board to bring the community of Drexel back together, to work together for the best that Drexel can have. So, Mr. Chairman, that would be my motion. This election will be conducted by an outside party, an impartial party that would be appointed by this board to oversee that election on that date. There's more details that we could that I have circulated that among, I think, most of the commissioners. I believe everyone hopefully has seen that and had a chance to give some thought to it. But I believe that it's the best solution for the community to do all we can to bring this community back together rather than seal their fate separately.
Thank you, Jeff. We now move into a motion mood. Does anybody want to speak to the motion? Any other discussion?
Jeff, you think that without the commissioners' involvement, like I said, with 2 members from each group, you think that can move it along like that?
I feel that it can. I think based on what efforts have already been made, I think a mediator was tried at one point. I think that didn't seem to work. If a mediator couldn't make it work, then I'm not sure another trip down that trail will work.
So both groups will come together at this election?
That is correct.
Both groups?
Yes, that's his motion.
And if the Drexel Booster Club refuses to follow through with that, then the Drexel Chargers would immediately be considered the Burke County Recreation Club for the area.
Any comment or question to the motion? That's for board members only.
The election, as we have had it spelled out, and let me just read this so there'll be no confusion, hopefully.
Mr. Chairman, if I may intervene at this moment. Jeff, I would like for you to read the whole recommendation so everybody in this audience will know exactly what we're talking about, please, if you don't mind. Mr. Chairman, that'd be okay?
Yes, sir.
Okay.
Or you, hold it just a second. Now, do I understand this is an explanation to the motion, or is this going to be in part and incorporated into the motion?
I would have no problem with it being incorporated as the motion.
Counselor, that's a rather long, it's more instruction than it is motion. Could it be incorporated into?
It can be. I don't know what he's going to read, but the motion can be as long and as detailed as it needs to be.
Well, actually, the motion could be simply that there will be a meeting on that date, and those people involved will meet there, and this is what will happen. They will come together and form one entity. That's the whole ball of wax.
Okay.
You go ahead and read the entire thing, and I'll get a second opinion from Counselor.
Okay. One athletic organization booster club for Burke County Recreation Program playing in the district. Termination of the Town of Drexel Chargers from the Burke County Parks and Recreation Program effective September 1, 2013. Termination of the Drexel Booster Club from the Burke County Parks and Recreation Program effective September 1, 2013, unless the following conditions are met by the Booster Club. The Drexel Booster Club will hold an announced open meeting in the Burke County Conference Center located at 2128 South Sterling Street, Morganton, North Carolina on Saturday, August 24th, 2013, from 10 a.m. until 12 noon for the election of new Drexel Booster Club officers who will be installed and replace current club officers on September 1, 2013 for a period of 1 year. The election will be conducted by an outside impartial moderator appointed by the Burke County Board of Commissioners. To vote and or participate in the election, the person must be of age to vote in the county municipal elections and have as their current primary residence an address located in the Drexel Playing District as currently established by the Burke County Parks and Recreation Department and shown on the person's valid North Carolina driver's license, North Carolina identification card, or present a stamped and postmarked item of U.S. mail for identification and showing an active mailing address in the Drexel Playing District as established by the Burke County Parks Recreation Department to that person as verified by the current president of the Drexel Booster Club and president of the Drexel Chargers or their designee for the election to be conducted on August 24th, 2013. U.S. mail used for this purpose must be postmarked within 60 days prior to the election and display a valid address within the Drexel Playing District, as said district is currently established by the Burke County Parks and Recreation Department. And all future elections will be open, as stated above, and conducted on the fourth Saturday of August in each year hereafter at a place to be determined and publicly announced 60 days prior to such election. And the election requirements set out in this recommendation will supersede and take absolute precedence over any and all current or future club bylaws established by this purpose by or for the Drexel Booster Club until the annual election requirements established in this recommendation are repealed by a majority vote in open session during a regular or special call meeting of the Burke County Board of Commissioners in accordance with the laws of the state of North Carolina. In the event that the Drexel Booster Club fails or refuses to properly comply with the requirements stated above, the Drexel Booster Club will immediately be terminated from participation in the Burke County Recreation Program, and the town of Drexel Chargers will be established as the athletic organization booster club for the Drexel Playing District upon successful completion of the requirements established above for the Drexel Booster Club.
Mr. Chairman, I don't know if that could be completely, some of the Drexel playing group, I live in Drexel, but I have a Morganton address. And I think a lot of the people that play in the Drexel League have different addresses.
Can't do that. You have to belong or live in the city limits or that district.
I don't think that'll work.
It's in the playing district as established,
That'll work.
so that doesn't matter whether you have a Morganton address or a Drexel address, and that's why it's got to be verified that it is part of the Drexel playing
Yeah,
district.
the address could be different, but the residents could not be outside the district. Yes.
Mr. County Attorney, you looked at it, what do you think?
That would be certainly acceptable as a motion. Just
Good.
put that in the form of a motion.
Mr. Chairman, can I make a comment?
Sure.
To speak to the motion, I think both organizations, Ms. Kaminsky and Mr. Brown, both have the same goal. They all want the children to play. Unfortunately, we've been placed in this position, and you know, how it got here is no different. It's in the past. It's here in our laps now, and we're kind of being placed in a position of being this is a legal matter almost to try to get the two teams back together. We've again, like Wayne says, we've dealt with it for a long time. Jeff and I have spoken together on numerous occasions, and I don't want to divide Drexel. I lived in Drexel, was raised in Drexel, born in Drexel, and have an affinity for the Booster Club as we helped start it, and I have a strong affinity for this group over here that's been friends of mine. I'm on both sides for years and years. But we've been placed in this position, parents. You please take this into consideration. This is the decision we're going to have to make now to try to get you two groups back together. I hope you will accept what we're trying to do here. It's not trying to demean either group. It's trying to draw the two groups together so all of these kids can play together. And with that, I support Jeff's motion.
Mr. Chairman, again, if this doesn't work, are we going to again have kids that aren't going to be able to play in Burke County Recreation? I mean, we've tried and tried and tried to bring this together, but are we, again?
Well, Mr. Chairman, I'll answer that question with a little bit of an explanation. When two entities divide, usually both of them suffer. Sometimes both entity ends up dying and going away. The whole point to keep a strong, organized, fair, equal Parks and Recreation is that that doesn't happen. And what's happened in Drexel, we have a divide, and it can't stand in fair and equitable standards to the rest of the Parks and Recreation teams. I'm reminded of an old cliche, and I say this with all the love and sympathy and I could muster, but it is quite a marvel to watch a kid act like an adult. But it is somewhat disgusting to see an adult act like a kid. And we have tried, we've put them on probation. Yeah, I don't favor one team off the other, except I will tell you, I am rather a stickler for protocol and rules. If you're going to have rules, if you're not going to abide with them, why have the rules? And if you wanted to try a Parks and Recreation with nobody in charge, you talk about confusion and frustration and a demise of a Parks and Recreation. it would happen overnight. I think this board, and we have, we didn't create the divide. We have tried on several occasions to bring it back together. Probably we made one mistake by giving the probation period, because we allowed something to begin that we knew would sooner or later have to stop. So in order to survive, I want them both to be healthy. I want them both to grow. I don't want to have to, and I don't think the Parks and Recreation wants to, every time they bring up the Drexel community, we got two teams, when you two entities, when you're just supposed to have one. But it does need, for the sake of that community and for the rest of the Recreation Department, it does need to come back together as one. And we, I know I speak for every commissioner up here, we'll do everything we can to bring it together. And other than that, that is all we can do.
Mr. Chairman, you just said you want both of them to grow, but...
Together. But we want the entities to come together and grow. Any other comment? We have a motion. All those in favor of the motion, raise your right hand. 4-0, Madam Clerk. Those opposed? 1. Item 3, rejection of real estate property owned by Burke County Board of Education, and we will recognize Brian Steen.
Give them a minute to get out.
I'll email it to you.
Mr. Chairman, on item 3, the summary, the Burke County Board of Education owns certain real property known as the Mountain Crest Elementary School property, consisting of plus or minus 10.97 acres and described in Deed Book 145, page 275 of the Burke County Register of Deeds Office. The Board of Education also owns real property located at 213 First Avenue Southwest in Hildebrand and is known as the Hildebrand Annex. These properties we've been notified by the school system that they would like to surplus these and sell these. According to law, they had to come to us first for first right of refusal. I don't find a need for the county to buy these properties, and would offer them to you in the resolution to decline taking this property for the county.
Okay. Question or comment? If no comment, could I hear a motion?
Mr. Chairman, I move to adopt resolution number 2013-26, which declines the aforementioned school property.
Thank you. All those in favor, raise your right hand. 5-0, Madam Clerk. Item number 4, General Services, exemption from NCGS 143-6432, and H. Carson Fisher will present that.
Thank you, Chairman Taylor, members of the board. Bringing before you a request to consider approving a annual services contract with Joyce Engineering for fiscal year 2013-2014 in the amount of $75,400, and also reappropriation of $275,341 from previously approved contracts to complete work on other work other than the ongoing consulting. And of course, you have in your agenda package the 3 motions that will be needed. The first is item A, request for the board to consider exempting themselves from the state public policy of seeking requests for qualifications for architectural engineering surveying and construction management at risk services in accordance with NCGS 143-64.32 due to the vast knowledge and experience Joyce Engineering has with Burke County landfills. Second, item B, request to award an ongoing consulting services contract with Joyce Engineering in the amount of $75,400. And then item C, a reappropriation of $275,341 in fiscal year 13-14 to complete previously approved projects and contracts with Joyce Engineering. We'd be glad to answer any questions board members may have.
Okay, Mr. Fisher. Any question or comment on the presentation? This item takes 3 motions. If no comment or questions, I will ask for a motion.
Mr. Chairman, I move to approve exemption from state public policy of seeking requests for qualifications for architectural engineering, surveying, and construction management at risk services in accordance with NCGS 143-64.32 due to the vast knowledge and experience Joyce Engineering has with Burke County landfills.
Thank you, Jeff. All those in favor, raise your right hand. 5-0, Madam Clerk.
Chairman, I move to approve the fiscal year 13-14 annual contract with Joyce Engineering for ongoing consulting services and authorize the county manager to execute the document on behalf of the board, subject to review and/or revision by the county attorney.
Okay, thank you, Jeff. Question or comment on the motion? All those in favor, raise your right hand. 5-0, Madam Clerk. Final motion.
I would further move to approve the reappropriation of $275,341 to the fiscal year 13-14 budget for previously approved contracts with Joyce Engineering to be completed in fiscal year 13-14.
Thank you, Jeff. Any discussion about the motion? All those in favor, raise your right hand. 5-0, Madam Clerk. Thank you.
Thank you.
Next on the agenda is reports and comments. We'll start over here on the right side since we started on the left the last time. Counselor?
I don't have any comments. Thank you.
Okay. Brian?
Yes, sir. We are going to have a bid opening on June 25th for the contractor to build the 911 facility, and I may be coming back to you in the July meeting if we can get the analysis done and have a recommendation for you for awarding of the contract.
Okay.
No comment.
I would like to take my turn just to say to the staff once again, to management, most people will ever know how much hours, how many hours, how much time, all the figuring and refiguring and addressing issues and talking not only to this commissioner group as a board, but also talking individually, and provided mountains of information. But I'd like to say to you on behalf of all of us, thank you very much. You've really enjoyed it. And I'd like to go one step further and say to you and your staff that are here, I would buy your dinner out tonight as a way of thank you if y'all would allow that. So thank you. That's the commissioners and the staff. Johnny?
I hope I remember this correctly. I believe there was a passage in To Kill a Mockingbird or in the movie one I saw where it says that someone's born to do some unpleasant things, like Atticus Finch did. So tonight we're all Atticus Finches, I think. So it's not a whole lot to say that I feel that I'm proud of you gentlemen for doing what the Lord has led you to do, which is the right thing, and we've not succumbed to some pressures that's been placed upon us. So on behalf of my family, I'd like to thank our county employees for everything that they do. I hope we have adequately supported the schools and our law enforcement agencies, healthcare programs. It was a tough decision for everyone to have to make. Mr. Manager, I apologize that you've been demeaned in some ways, but you're a good manager, and I appreciate everything that you do. County Attorney, the same goes for you, sir. And Madam Clerk.
Jeff?
I've said enough for tonight, Mr. Chairman.
All right. Jack?
I probably have two, but I just want to make one comment. I'm not opposed for growth in the county, but I am opposed to growth in one budget, if you understand what I'm saying. And I go back to what I said in my former earlier comments about a plan. I would hope this board will look at that and think about that in the coming year and see what, with the staff of the county, and see what needs to be done and how we go about doing it, and put it on a piece of paper so this board will have it for years to come, and maybe somebody that comes and replaces us will see a plan that works and adopt that and to lead this county forward. We need growth, and growth costs money, but not the whole bill should be paid in one budget. And that's what this budget did tonight. We're trying to cure all the ills with one budget. And this budget is going to last for probably 4 years. I don't know what the next reval has. Haven't heard anything about that, when that's going to take place. I guess we're going to decide sometime. But the 68 cent is going to stick with you. And it's harder to reduce taxes once it's put in place and people spend your money. So my thoughts are, we need a plan, but we need physical responsibility also. Thank you, Mr. Chairman.
Thank you. Madam Clerk?
Thank you, Mr. Chairman. I just wanted to thank the board for all that you do, and it's a pleasure to work with each and every one of you and the management staff.
Thank you. The spotlight is still on you for vacancies, Madam Clerk.
All right, thank you, Mr. Chairman. Currently, we have the following vacancies on county boards and commissions: the Hickory Regional Planning Commission, the Adult Care Home Community Advisory Committee, the Nursing Home Community Advisory Committee, the Council on Aging, Juvenile Crime Prevention Council, Child Protection Child Fatality, City of Morganton Planning Board, ETJ, City of Morganton Board of Adjustment, ETJ, Board of Equalization and Review, Burke Development Incorporated. And that concludes the list of vacancies. Thank you.
Thank you. We will have a need, hopefully it'll be short, for closed session, as authorized by NCG 143-1318.11A346. Do I have a motion we adjourn to closed sessions?
So moved.
All those in agreement can take another 5-minute recess, and we'll rejoin up to approve an evaluation. Chair will entertain a motion to adjourn.
So moved.
All those in favor?